morning, everybody. Good afternoon, or perhaps good evening, depending on where you're joining from. I'm Jeanette Anderson, your hostess of the Purpose and Profit Breakthrough. So welcome, and I'm glad to see you, Suze. Welcome to the show.
Happy
to have you here. So let me tell you guys a little bit about Suze Casey. We've known each other for, what's that phrase, a dog's year or something like that? So much so that I didn't even tell her that it was Blue Monday, and look at that, we're wearing the same clothes. So I'll give you the official intro for Suze, and then we'll find out something juicy and interesting about her and why she does what she does. So Suze is dedicated to support individuals to believe in themselves and consciously create a joyful life from a place of personal respect and self-love. Regarded as the how-to-go-to for positive thinking, Okay,
How to go to.
Yes, Suze promises belief repatterning work for everyone in every circumstance, all the time, guaranteed. So that's a big promise, guys, and that's probably based on 30 years of experience and expertise. On a personal note, Suze is grand to six, is the artistic director of the Calgary Folk Club and serves as the board of the Airdrie Chamber of Commerce and the Airdrie and District Victim Assistance Services. She delights in travel and long conversations with her partner, Dr. Philip Hoffman. So welcome. That's cool. I did not know you had 6 grandchildren now.
I do.
See, because I still think of us as like how old we were when we met, like 20 years ago. So it's like, how is that possible? But I guess it is. All right. So welcome. So tell us, that's the official intro, Suze. Tell us a little something about you that we wouldn't guess or wouldn't know from your bio.
Well, just speaking of knowing each other for how long, so about it doesn't matter when, January or something, I got a letter from the federal government saying you're going to be 65 this year. When do you want your pension to start? And I'm like, 30 years from now, I don't feel like I'm 65, so I'm not retiring. So
exactly.
Yeah. So, and for me, 65 it's a big deal. Because just before my 30th birthday, I was diagnosed with stage 4 malignant melanoma and told to put my affairs in order. And the parents of those adorable grandchildren were about the size of the adorable grandchildren. So my kids were young, and it was not how I was planning on spending my 30th birthday or my 30th year. And, it's really where this work came from, is that big challenge in my life. And so on my 60th birthday, I had a double life expectancy birthday party. This year I'm just having a, 60 plus. But yeah, I'm one of these people that just like delights in birthdays and goes, yes. And I especially delight when people look at me and go, I would never have guessed.
Yes, exactly. I know, right? That's awesome. I love it. I think every day on this side of the dirt is a good day, and every birthday is a bonus birthday. So congratulations Absolutely. On that. And I love the double life expectancy. I look forward to being at your triple life expectancy birthday.
Well, I actually decided that I was going to be Canadian and go for a double. So right. That would make it 100.
You're not Canadian. That's a Tim Hortons reference.
123, and I remember my mom has long since passed, but when I told her that I was going for 123, she said, "You foolish woman. Why do you want to be old and sick?" And I went, "Oh, because I've already thoroughly explored sick, and I'm wildly curious about old. And I think that life should be like 1, 2, 3, like that. It's just that easy. So that's my goal." So
I love that.
That's the plan.
All right, So I mentioned that you've been at this for 30 years. So I do want to talk to you a little bit about being in business for 30 years, because that's not that common. And those of us who are older and have been, it's kind of like, well, yeah, it's just a thing you just do. You keep waking up each day and doing what you love. And then all of a sudden, look at that, it's been 30 years. But for those who are, coming up, starting out, getting going, it might seem like magic. So we want to share some of the magic. But let's start with that decision to get better and why you do the work you do in more detail, and tell people what is the work you do.
So yeah, the work I do is belief repatterning, hence the banner behind me. And I had to name it something. But as you can imagine, at 5 weeks before your 30th birthday with 3 little kids and a career that was like fabulous and enjoyable in the education field, being told to put your affairs in order, not by one, but by more than one doctor, it kind of puts a little bit of a shift your perspective on life. And so I'd like to say immediately I started thinking positively, but that's not what happened. I did what I think, well, what I knew to do, which was fight. And so I fought. And when you fight and push and fight and push, you often get through things, but then what typically happens is then you go kersplat.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what happened to me. And 18 months later, I was back in the same doctor's office with a different stage 4 cancer diagnosis. And it was like, come on, like, and they're like, well, they're not related. And I'm like, it's the same body. But because as individuals, as humans, we do what worked last time.
Mm-hmm.
I fought again, right? I kind of forgot about the splat part, but I fought, got through it. And then about 8 months later, I was back in the same doctor's office. And this time it wasn't with cancer. And clearly there's a happy ending to the story, but it was chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, and if you can imagine, depression. So I was diagnosed with clinical depression, and I would like to say that was the turning point, but no, I went and curled up in fetal position and felt sorry for myself and kind of whined and sniveled. And then one day I was staring in the mirror, and fortunately this particular bathroom in that particular house had a window on the other side, like behind me. So I'm staring into the mirror and contemplating, exiting stage right, like just because I knew I was a drain on my family. I wasn't contributing. I wasn't happy. And I was just like, I just need out. And I think that when we have those, I call them switch spots. We have a choice of which way to go on the path. And fortunately, this is where the window comes into play. My perspective shifted from staring at myself to looking in the mirror, but seeing what was in the window behind me. And it was one of those January days, with the sky about the color of our shirts, just a beautiful, beautiful blue sky day, and cold because it was January and we live in Calgary area. And there was a tree out the back. And I remember a thought dropped into my head, and it was, just because there's no leaves on that tree does not mean it's not going to leaf out and shelter my family in the summer. And just because I'm here now does not mean I'm not going to get well. And I turned, Jeanette, and I walked out. The bathroom was right at the back door, and I walked out onto the back deck in my fuzzy slippers and flannel jammies and yelled, "Get me well, and I will teach others how to get well, because I am an awesome teacher." And that was the day I met what I call my inner coach. And I don't, people say, who are you yelling to? And I was like, anybody who would listen. Like, I was just like declaring clear intention. And so I began then to read everything I could find on health and wellness. And I knew that this was important. My background is education. I have a master's degree in how we learn. Mm-hmm. And so I knew that our mindset was super important. And I knew it was important to think positively, but holy, for goodness sakes, that's hard. When the rug gets pulled out from underneath you, it's really hard. And so I began studying positive thinking. And everything I read, and this is 30 plus years ago, 35 years ago, everything I read was, you should think positively. And I'm like, I already get that. Tell me how. Mm-hmm. And I would read another. This is before Google was invented. So I was like reading books from the library, folks. Right? And everything was, it's important to think positively. It's like, yes, I get that. Tell me how. And then one day I woke up and thought, wait a minute, I've been writing curriculum for the Calgary Board of Education and Alberta Ed. I was one of the youngest consultants ever with the Calgary Board of Education, writing curriculum based in how we learn. And I thought, what if they phoned me and said, could you write a curriculum to help people think positively? I wouldn't curl up in a fetal position. I would just get on with it. So I did, and clearly got myself well, went back into the education field and discovered I could help kids that were having learning challenges through this work. If they could just shift their perspective on themselves as a learner, they could learn more easily. And so that began the process. And then, I talked to a girlfriend one day. She looked at me and she said, what did you just do? And I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, you were royally upset, and righteously so. And now seconds later, you're not, you're solid, you're calm, you're grounded. And she said, and I know you, like, you're not faking it. How did you do that?
Mhm.
And I said, I repatterned, because you see, Jeanette, I thought everyone else had it figured out except me.
Mm. Mhm.
So she was like, can you show me how? And I'm like, you don't know how? Like, because she was like one of the most successful women I knew. I thought she had it all together. Turns out I wasn't the only one, that had this kind of chickadee clattering thoughts that go on in your head. And I'm not talking about just, ending it, which is where it started for me. But just, I'm not worthy, or I'm not good enough, or I didn't do a good job, any of that stuff. And so I began to talk about it a bit more. And the next thing I knew, I got a phone call asking to book an appointment. And it was like, I didn't even know I did appointments. So I had the presence of mind to say, can I get your phone number? I'm just in the middle of something. I'll call you back in a 20 minutes, half hour. How did you find out about me? I knew darn well, because I hadn't told very many people. Anyway, phoned my girlfriend who had told, and I said, and she said, yeah, you got to help people with this. And I said, what do I charge? And she said, what did you pay for your last massage? so that's how I started my business. And, it's mostly grown by word of mouth, although, the whole Hay House thing was a pretty big, exciting thing that really changed things up a lot and took it international and widened the scope. But yeah, that's in a nutshell.
There was so many nuggets in that story, and an amazing story of transformation, education, and making the turning the education into a transformation. One of the things that I love that you said was, we often think that everyone knows what we know, that because it's second nature to us, because we thought about it for so long, because we have that perspective, that everyone has that. And it's not true. And it's why the whole coaching profession exists, and counseling and so forth, is because other people see and think of things differently than we do. And so I love that awareness of, okay, maybe other people don't quite get this, and maybe I can help them with that. And how do I
thank you for framing it that way, Jeanette. But really, the way I thought of it was that everybody else was at school that day and I missed. And then when I realized that this was that not only is it common, but it is like almost everybody. I mean, we all hold beliefs about ourselves and about the way the world works that are in our way.
Yeah.
And often the ones that seem the biggest insurmountable, like, I now am so grateful for that time in my 30s, because what happened is it completely shifted my perspective and allows me to stand on stages or in front of people and say, your biggest challenge will become your greatest pathway. Like, absolutely will, if you allow it to.
Right.
If you keep fighting against it, no. But if you go, and I'm not saying you roll over and accept it, but if you transform it, then it will create that strong foundation for you that you can move forward with. And that's, yeah.
Right, exactly. And I do want to talk about, there's, again, so many things in what you just said. I think the whole not enough BS story, belief system and bullshit story, is so ubiquitous, and it is the root of what gets and stops every single person in different ways, and is our opportunity for the breakthrough, because each of us has our flavor of that not enough story. And so the other side of that is that we matter, that we have that insight, that we have that perspective or window on the world, literally window on the world in your case. And so I also love that. Yes. I also love that little kind of side point of that sometimes it takes a first follower, that when we share from our knowledge, our heart, etc., and we contribute to people, they will then, of course, support other people by telling people, well, not necessarily, of course, but they often do that. And that once we have that first follower, it tends to then ripple out. When we say yes, when we don't say yes to the support, when we block it in some way, or we think it has to come in this way, and so we don't see it coming this way, then we miss out on the opportunity for those ripples, for that expansion. So lots in there. I do want to talk a little bit about the in-between, or the alternative to fight or acquiesce, because I think that's an important part of your learning and your teaching. But let's tell people what you were referring to about the Hay House. So your book's
Oh,
behind you. So let's tell people a little bit about how that I'm interested in not only how it transformed your business, but how you manifested it.
well, you see, it's interesting because people often ask me this, did you manifest? And no, I did not sit in lotus position and go, I am a Hay House author. What I did do is one of the things that I teach, which is, Stephen Covey, bless his soul, begin with the end in mind. But I actually say, begin with the emotion of the end in mind.
Mm.
And so it was like, I will do, in 1999, I left my full-time teaching career and have been doing this full-time since 99. And I made a very big intentional declaration at that point in time that I would do anything it took to get the word out, as long as it was legal, moral, and fun, and mostly fun.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had taken the work to the Calgary Board of Education because I was getting these great results with these kids and they were very interested in it, but they wanted the double blind studies. They wanted and I realized that I could spend my life trying to prove that it worked, or I could spend my life, invest my time in supporting people and helping them have better lives. And I chose door number 2.
Mm.
And so so that was my main, as long as I am helping people understand that you can learn to think in a way that will support you rather than have the ticketies going on, or the I can'ts or I shouldn'ts or all of that stuff, to open up to possibilities and make choices that come from your heart space. And so that's what I did. And I just kept doing that. And it was interesting when I met Louise. It might have been before I met her, but when I saw her on stage one of the first times, somebody said to her something about how did you no, it was after the book had come out, I saw her. Anyway, they said, how did you build your business? And she said, when the phone rang, I answered it. And when the mail came, I opened it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much what I've done, is just kind of followed that. The same friend, when you have friends like these folks, you treasure them. The same friend called me up one day and she said, did you see the email I forwarded to you? And this is like in 2010, summer of 2010. And I said, yeah, I saw that you did, but I didn't read it. And she said, okay, what are you doing right now? And I said, talking on the phone to you. And she said, good, go sit down at your computer and open it up and read it aloud to me. So I did. And it was from Hay House. And it was, they were doing Write, Speak, Promote, I think it was called. And it was in Toronto and it was going to be in September. And she said, I've decided that you're going, because what this is saying to me is that Hay House is looking for new authors. And she said, and you're it. Now let's back up about 5 years before that or so. I had gone over to her place one Saturday for supper and she opened the door and she said, I just had a nap and I dreamt that you got published by Hay House and that you had a television show and the book was blue. Okay, so now fast forward to this. So she said, you're going to Toronto. And she said, I don't want to hear that you can't afford it, that you don't have time. She said, you're going. And if needs be, I will pay for it because you're going. I feel so strongly about this. And she said, and you're not staying at a motel down the road that's cheaper. You're staying at the hotel where it is, blah, blah, blah. So I did. And she said, I have a feeling you're going to meet somebody in the hotel that's going to change your life. So the first night Louise was there and, there's like 800 people in this big ballroom. And this is, tell something that people don't know about me. So I was leaving and went to I was about to go back to through the walkway to the hotel. And I thought, no, go to the bathroom first, Suze, because you know how when you're walking down a long corridor at a hotel and then your key doesn't work, that situation. Anyway, so I did that. And when I came out, there was nobody around and I got to the elevator, I hit the button and the doors opened up and there was Louise Hay and Cheryl Richardson on the elevator.
Uh-huh.
And I stepped onto the elevator. I said hello to them. Of course, I had my name tag on saying that I was part of the group. And the elevator voice said, going up. And the little monkey in my head said, I sure am. One-on-one conversation I had with Louise. And anyway, they offered which Hay House still does. If you take their writers programs and you submit a proposal, they will look at it. And they offer one book publishing contract. And they offered at that point in time a radio show. And I ended up with both. And I didn't do it thinking I was going to get it. I did it because I went, you know what? People have been telling me I needed to write a book. And this is if I've got a structure, then I'll follow it. Right. So I had a structure and I had a best before date, which everybody else calls a deadline, but I repattern everything. And so, yeah, that's how it happened. So I'm the only Western Canadian author with Hay House, which I still hold as a really cool thing. And the radio show was supposed to be 1 month. I ended up being on for a year. And in week 6, I went into the top 10 where I stayed for that whole year. So wow. Yeah, I kind of this sort of like, whoa, and it's not me, right? Yeah. It's the work. It's the, like, I remember after the first show, Reed phoned me, the CEO, and he said, that was really smart of you to, get people that you knew to call in. I said, I didn't know any of those people. I was so naive, Jeanette. I didn't know that you needed to ask people to phone. I just asked and they did, because they were fascinated by the work. So yeah. And so the work is really, there's 2 parts to it. One is a 7-step process that I developed that just follows how we naturally learn, that trains your mind. And then the subconscious will start to play that. So whenever anything comes in on this side, my mind will move it over here. And I can say guaranteed every time, because it's based on how we learn. And we're all learning machines. So this is not some voodoo or magic sprinkle dust, although it looks like it. Yeah. And then the other part of it is just behaviors and what I call try these on practices, own work, things that you can do in your everyday busy life already that you can start to implement it. So yeah, long answer to a short question.
Wow. Okay. Well, again, a bunch of nuggets in that, not the least of which is when you started, you were talking about the fact that it has to be legal, moral, and fun, and especially fun. And what I often talk to clients about is following the path of our pleasure, but it's easier said than done. So how did you give yourself permission to move towards pleasure versus the security of the work that you knew, et cetera? Because there's so many people who have that moment of, well, this is the familiar, this is what I know, this is safe, whatever the words we want to wrap around it, versus this is what I'm called to and this would be fun, et cetera. So how did you make that shift? Because you're the queen of shifts, which we'll talk about in a moment, but how did
there is an F in that word, queen of shift? Yeah. Well, I would say I repatterned,
Okay.
I forgive myself for believing I need, and people who are listening in, you can do this with me. I forgive myself for believing I need to stay where it's safe. Breathe it in. And then I give myself permission to follow my heart and breathe that in. I can choose to stay where it's safe, or I can choose to follow my heart. I can't do both at the same time. I consciously choose to follow my heart and breathe it in. And then a lot of people want to stop there. That's only 3 of the 7 steps. The next ones are, to reinforce it. I'm free to follow my heart this afternoon when I go for a walk in the farmer's field and watch the geese. And you get that kind of little, tingly thing. And then, I know what it's like to follow my heart. It happened when I said yes to the trip to Thailand. Right. Okay. And then I am following my heart. And this is an opportunity for me to expand that. I'm grateful to myself for expanding my ability to follow my heart. And so I know it sounds really simple, and it is. The hardest part about what I do is helping people understand how simple it can be. However, it does take more than once, and you do need to practice it, which is why I'm offering people 15 minutes complimentary with me, because they're listening to you. And so I think I popped the URL, that's what we call those things, the link in, it's 15 with Sue's beliefrepatterning.com. 15 with Sue's, I think there's a dot in there. Yes, there is. 15 with Sue's beliefrepatterning.com. And this is just, I'm at a wonderful place in my life, Jeanette. I am excitedly training people to become practitioners, excitedly welcoming people who are already practitioners and coaches to add this to their repertoire, to their toolkit, because we all know, those of us who are in the helping place, that you get to a certain place with someone and you can't get past it because they got a belief system sitting there. So can you imagine if you could just zing them through the belief system, then what you do with whatever the you is, whatever the skill that you have, putting that together, because until people get their head wrapped around it, they're going to continue to bang their head against the wall, and you're kind of putting band-aids on it. But as soon as they start looking out the window, then your work can go just skyrocket. So I'm excited about that. And I'm in a wonderful place where I just want people to be able to follow their bliss, you know, to be solid in their life, to be, like I got a second chance. And I've often said, if I can help anyone not have to go to where I went, and I went there because this was going all the time, and I was, you know, hard on myself and beating myself up and, you know, all that ick. Yeah. And so, yeah, I'm excited to welcome anybody who would like a 15-minute. I'll walk you through, you know, in 15 minutes, we can usually do 2 repatterns. Is that going to change your life forever? Yes. Because whenever you learn something new, it changes your life forever.
Exactly. So tell us the URL again, because it actually didn't show up in the chat. So I'm going to type it in.
Oh,
So
you know why? Because I only typed half of it and then we started to talk.
So
Okay.
what is it again?
So it's 15, the number 15, 15 with WITH, Suze, which is SUZE, and then a dot, belief, BELIEF, repatterning, REPATTERNING.com. And the next time I invent something, I'm going to make it easier to say and spell, but it's belief, BELIEF like Frank, RE, the word pattern, PATTERNING.com.
Awesome. All right. Yep, it's working. I got the link in the chat there or in the comments below. So I highly recommend that you take Suze up on this, because to experience the work is to get an experience of how easy it can be to shift and to have that true insight into the steps in the process that you just outlined. And there's so many things that I still want to talk about, but we only have a couple of minutes. First of all, I really do want to meet your friend, because like when you were talking about her, I was like, oh, that's an awesome friend to have. And then my immediate thought was, if I want something, be that. So my immediate thought when I wrote a note down was call Sharon, my friend, and be that friend to that person. So if you also had that thought of friend envy and coveting her Sue's friend, then go be that friend for someone today.
Whatever you want for yourself. I call it, you know, like I call it the football rule, because when we were kids, my brothers gave my dad a football for his birthday. My dad didn't want a football, but my brothers wanted a football and wanted to play football with dad. And so that's why I call it the football rule. It's like, whatever you're wanting for you, gift it to others and let it spill off on you on the way by.
Yes, exactly.
You know, like the quick example that I gave, like, where can you follow your heart today rather than waiting until, you know, 100 years from now or whatever, but where can you follow your heart today? And if you just keep doing it 1% or more each day, all of a sudden you're living it.
Yes. And Carol, by the way, I'm glad you joined us. She said, I wish I got here earlier. You can go back and see the whole recording from the beginning in the group. And hi, Sherry.
That will let me come again, because we hardly even talked about getting steady in shaky times.
Yeah, exactly, which was the whole topic. So you can leave us with one tidbit on that, but I also really love the notion, because I know so many people who try and resist their way out of resistance, and fight in order to heal or to get calm and so forth. And you mentioned it wasn't that I gave up, but I didn't fight. So what is the balance between, or the option C, that is not fighting and not acquiescence and giving up or capitulation? What is that
question? You know, we tend to see things in that black and white polarities, right? And there's all these options in between, right? And for me, it was really an acceptance of where I was and a recognition that nothing's put in front of you that you cannot turn around.
Yep.
You know, that anything that's there is purposeful, even though you may not be able to see the purposefulness of it in that moment, but that we are creators, and therefore we can, you know. So when I stopped like yelling at this, you know, being upset and angry with it, and I totally remember, because my partner at the time, my kid's dad, was very heavily involved in science of mind. And he's like, no. And I'm like, yes, like I need to go, I am really ill.
Yeah.
I needed to like, and I didn't sit in there for like decades, but I needed to acknowledge it instead of pretending I was fine.
Mhm.
but go, you know what, this is, and that's one of the things that I really help a lot of my clients with, is saying, you know, there's this is a real thing. Like,
Mhm.
it sucks.
Yeah.
And you can't just kind of roll on, you know, unicorn farted away. Like, it's
Yeah,
not,
exactly.
you need
Yeah,
to go through it.
positive thinking is not the denial of what is.
No,
So
no.
there's true acceptance and acknowledgement of what is, and then recognition of the impact of that. So I'm kind of reverse engineering what you said here, and really getting that there is a purposefulness to it, or can be, when we choose to find that, and that we are creators, and so let's create it. I often say we're making it all up, and so make up better stories, right? And so be the source, be the creator that you are. And yeah, I challenged with light earlier. So um
It was
uh
cloudy when we started. So yeah, the sun is
exactly.
coming up. But yes, and what you're doing right now, Jeanette, with when you're saying reverse engineering, is the steps of the process. So the first is acknowledgement, which is the forgiveness step. Like, I get it. This is like, it's not fun. Permission is, what are the possibilities? Now, the possibilities are not possibilities of, should I do this? Should I do this? How do I want to be? How do I want to feel? Let's go on the emotion. And then you make a conscious choice.
Mhm.
And then you take that conscious choice and you apply it someplace. Like, I'm going to go for a walk and I'll feel that way. And then you remember where you've done it before. So you anchor it in. And
Mhm.
then you go, you know what, this is who I am, or who I'm becoming. You claim it. And then you thank yourself for it. And those are the 7 steps.
Mhm. Love it. Those are awesome steps. And I know that you've got a workshop coming up, or a couple of them next year, called Flip the Switch. So tell us briefly, and where can they go to find out more information about
Oh,
that, about you?
I have a lot of stuff. I've been at it for 30 years and I'm a curriculum developer.
Yeah.
Okay. So people are like, wow, where do I start? Wherever. Okay. So events.beliefrepatterning.com has all of the events. I typically do Flip Your Switch several times a year.
Uh-huh.
Set all the dates for 2023. I set them until the summer, and people are like, oh, what about the fall? And I'm like, I'm going to Australia next fall. So Phil and I will be spending 3 months in Australia in the fall with his family. He's Australian. And so I'm offering Flip Your Switch live in select locations from January through to July. And
Yeah.
then it's always also all available at home virtually. So that's also a possibility. So Flip Your Switch is the basics for yourself. I also do complimentary 1-hour events every month on the 13th. You can find out about those at events.beliefrepatterning.com as well. Of course, there's the 15 minutes that I mentioned earlier, 15 minutes with me. Okay.
Awesome. Love that.
You know, setting clear intention, I'm all about that. I've got on Facebook page or LinkedIn, if you follow me, you'll see these little intentions for the day, which are just little thoughts, and the process kind of broken down into bits and pieces. I've got tons of stuff. If you Google Suze Casey, I'm about the first 500,000 hits that come up. This is what a Hay House contract will do. But
Yes. When you've been at it, but at it intentionally, and at it from a place of generation and creation. All right. So the topic was how to stay
steady,
firm,
steady,
steady in shaky times. So let's leave them with one kind of tip or thought about that topic, so that I actually fulfill on the promise of the conversation. But tell us, A, why you picked it, and B, what's one tip or hint for staying steady in shaky times?
because what I'm witnessing is people's foundation is shaky.
Mhm.
The last couple of years have done that. And so that's why I've been doing that. I do a whole hour. I think it's in maybe February, it's coming up, but if they want to go check the events one tip, if I can give you one tip, we've already done it, which is, how do you want to feel? What do you want instead of wherever the spin cycle is for you? So, if you're feeling shaky, is it steady that you want to feel? Is it grounded? Is it centered? Is it solid? Like, what is it? And then be that energy. So one of my famous quotes is, when I don't know what to do, I focus on how I want to be the bee, and then the do will show up.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Love that. That's a great tip, little mic drop. And I know that we've heard that and thought it, but just like Sue started out with, is how do you do that was what led her down 30 years of expertise, 30 years of contribution, 30 years of making a difference in hundreds of thousands of people's lives. So following that question to how do I be that? And then getting help from people like Sue's who have a process and a methodology and a way to do that is a great way to shift into who do we want to be, and out of that, what do we want to do, and what do we want to have and create. So thank you for being here. Thank you for doing all of that work of the analysis, the allowing, the letting it in, the being willing to codify it, put it in processes and systems, and to keep doing that from such a beautiful place of passion and purpose and just really giving heart, Suze. So
Well,
thank you.
so looking in the mirror at yourself there, girl. Thank you. And it was such a delight to reconnect with you, and totally happy to do this again if that makes sense in your world, and just so thrilled with the work that you're doing to support entrepreneurs, especially women entrepreneurs. It's much easier now. And whenever I thought that it was tough, I just kept thinking about Louise. She was like 55 when she started Hay House, and she affected millions of people in such a positive way. And it's like, yeah, it's not too late. It's, you haven't missed your chance. You've got something in you that's fired, act like Jeanette and I, and just like, go for it. Just like, and find your tribe of people who will support you. And the naysayers, just give them a hug and an apple and send them south. Like, just
exactly. And keep going forward. I mean, again, I wanted to talk to you about 30 years and how do you do that one day at a time, one contribution at a time, and to just keep coming back and to keep tapping back into that why, so that you get up the next morning and go, okay, yeah, this still matters to me. And so
I got well, and I'm helping other people get well because I know I'm an awesome teacher.
Yes, exactly. Love that. On that note, thank you so much, Suze, for being here. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Please do go and check out and book time with her. Thanks, Sherry. She'd love it, ladies. Great to see you both. And please take action. I know that a lot of times people give their time. This is a tremendously valuable gift. Go and have Suze help you flip your switch to make this day and this week and perhaps your entire life better. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Bye.